Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says it will go ahead with a cull of more than 300 ostriches at a farm near Edgewood. That's after the Supreme Court's dismissal of an appeal by the farm. We'll talk about what was behind that cull order to begin with. Plus, where is Vancouver's most dangerous intersection? We'll talk to the group behind a new ranking, and we're asking you as well, have you had a bad experience crossing an intersection in BC? What do you think made it dangerous? We'll talk about that too. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. We're going to bring you live to the ostrich farm near Edgewood in a few moments from now as well. Our reporter Carolyn Barghout is there and has been there all morning, and so she'll tell us the latest at the scene. But right now, as you have been hearing, this morning Canada's highest court dismissed an appeal by a BC ostrich farm to stay an order to cull its flock of more than 300 birds. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says it is now moving forward with the, quote, complete depopulation of birds at Universal Ostrich Farms. The Supreme Court of Canada's decision comes after more than 10 months since the agency issued the initial cull order, and that followed the detection of an avian flu outbreak at the farm. Right now, to talk about why the cull was ordered in the first place, I'm joined by Dr. Scott Weese. He's the Chief of Infection Control at the Ontario Veterinary College Teaching Hospital and holds a Canada Research Chair in Zoonotic Diseases. He also serves as an infectious disease veterinarian at the University of Guelph, and he joins us on the phone. Good afternoon. Okay, perfect. Dr. Weese has been disconnected. We're going to try and go back to him in just a moment. And I believe, Dr. Weese, we have you back on the line. Oh, there you are. I see you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We're basically wanting to go back and just revisit why the CFIA issued the order for the rest of the flock. There were a number that were ill back in December, and since then, this cull was ordered. Can you tell us what was behind that?
Well, the state dates back to, like you said, the initial infection back in December, and Canada, like other countries, has an international obligation to contain H5N1 flu, and the standard approach to that is to cull it, is to cull the group. So their approach was to go in and euthanize the animals unless we have a compelling argument and a plan to contain them. That's how we control this virus, because of the risk to people and animals.
And when you say contain, the remaining 400 birds have been outdoors on their farm during this time while the appeal process was going through. So that is not in line with what should be proper protocol?
No, and there are a lot of things that were done against protocol from the start. So initially, they didn't report the infection. There are questions about what they did with the birds that died, whether they were outside and exposed to animals that could have spread it more. There weren't steps taken to try to contain it at the start, and it just dragged out.
The argument, you've heard this before, the argument from the farm and its supporters is that they have not been tested in recent months, they don't appear to be ill, and they may have developed in that time antibodies that could be useful. What do you think of that argument?
Well, there's not a lot of evidence the antibodies they have would be useful or more useful than any other bird that has been infected with this virus. The question of whether the flock is infected, it's a reasonable one. It's been a long time. It's quite possible the virus went in, killed some birds, some survived, and now it's gone, but we don't know that. And that's the problem. We have international obligations to control it. And unless we can prove that it's not there and prove that we've contained things, we have to assume there's still potential. And that's why some countries have expressed concern about Canadian poultry, because Canada hasn't done what we're supposed to do here by containing it, so they lose confidence in our food supply.
What has been the discussion in the scientific community in response to this case and all the attention that it is getting?
Well, part of it's just been the concern that it's moving beyond science. It moved away from the ostriches very quickly to being politicized. But within the scientific community, there are some compelling reasons to think about our approaches to high-risk viruses like this. Do we cull? Do we have alternate strategies? And you can make some arguments for alternate strategies in some situations, but we have to be very careful with how we do it. The default has to be good containment. We have to go in, be very transparent, be very aggressive in our testing and our control to convince ourselves and others that we don't have a threat, as opposed to what happened here is nothing bad happened, it seemed more broadly, but that's because we got lucky. And you only get lucky so many times with a virus.
What's the risk right now? It is high avian flu season. There have been, the virus has been detected at among 19 flocks of birds in BC since October. We're heading into migration season as well. What is the risk right now then?
Well, it's hard to say because the risk from this group, we don't know if there are any infected birds. There probably aren't. I think it's quite reasonable to think there aren't, but we don't know. They are still at risk from being exposed from wild birds, like any outdoor bird. And the fact that this farm has shown that they're not willing to take adequate precautions in reporting would create concern if they got the birds back. So we have both reasons to concern what this group could pose a risk to the broader population and the potential for this happening again.
I'm interested in what you had to say about, perhaps any discussion around approaches, alternatives, perhaps. And I know some of the criticism around the CFIA has been about transparency. What are the lessons, do you think, that could be gleaned here?
Well, I think we could look at how we approach unique circumstances. And, the thing about this is unique just because they're ostriches, but there's nothing really compelling. They're not endangered species. There's not something special about this group. But it makes us think about how we control viruses and how quick we have to act. This is dragged on for 10 months. There's no way that should happen with a high-risk situation. There may be compelling reasons to think about exemptions to cull orders. But again, that has to be done where you identify a problem, you do everything possible to contain it while you're rapidly sorting out what happens. And when the decision is made, the decision is made. You don't hide and deflect and create risk and drag it out as much as you can. So I think we could have some approaches and discussions about how we handle these things, but ultimately we have to make sure that Canada has the ability to control high-risk situations and not weaponize the court system.
Dr. Weese, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Scott Weese, a veterinarian specializing in zoonotic diseases, and we reached him in Guelph, Ontario. And we're going to go now to live to the farm itself. The owners and supporters of the farm say they are devastated. CBC senior reporter Carolyn Barghout joins me now live from Universal Ostrich Farms. She's been there since early this morning. Hi, Carolyn. Thanks for being with us.
Hi. Thank you.
Can you describe what the scene has been like over the hours that you have been there today?
Yeah, it's been it's been a lot, actually. We started on the other side of this farm. So this morning we were on the other side. This is a huge property. You can probably see the ostriches in the back. There's about 300 ostriches on this farm, and about 75 to 80 people have been here today. I was talking to one supporter, and she said over the long weekend they had 500 people here. So there have been hundreds of people that have been coming and going over the past several months. I want you to take a look over here. We are on the side of this road. I'm not exactly sure what road this is. I think it might be a highway. But all of these vehicles that are parked along here are supporters, and they were in the farm earlier, but they had rushed out here as soon as they started to see CFIA, Canadian Food Inspection agents, wearing the hazmat gear, all the white suits. They were in the pens, and we could see them where we were. They were really trying to corral the birds, trying to get them to one area. So people here really thought that the cull was starting to happen, and it sure looked like that's what was happening. Nobody has notified us about what was happening. If you heard that, those are fireworks. The supporters are also lighting off fireworks. We also spoke with Katie Pasitny earlier today. She's the spokesperson for Universal Ostrich Farms. Here's what she had to say.
The right to live. They definitely deserve the right to be tested before they're eradicated and killed. Shame on you, Heath MacDonald, our agricultural minister, for never reaching out to us, never setting foot on this farm. Shame on our government for not stepping up. Our true leaders. Where are our true leaders?
You know, when we were talking to her and talking to all of the supporters, they were really, really upset this morning when they heard the Supreme Court was not going to take on this case. There were people who were crying. There were people who were very angry. People were really emotional. At one point, they were also holding hands and praying and basically saying that they were hoping for a miracle.
You know, it's interesting. I was looking at and watching your reports this morning as well, and that road that you're on, or that highway you're on, You're right. The supporters, they were lining that road earlier today, and now it looks like they have gone into their cars that do line that road. Can you tell me more? I know you've been there before as well. Can you tell me more about what is driving the supporters? What brought them there, and why do they feel so strongly?
Well, there, I think, are two different positions that some of the supporters have. One is government overreach. I was talking to one man and he said, we're just tired of government overreach. We think that, these policies should be adjusted, should be changed. And a lot of other people, including the farm owners, really believe that these ostriches have some sort of immunity because, as 69 ostriches had died on this farm, but there's about 300 or so that are alive. And the farmers say that they are healthy, that they've never exhibited any signs of any sickness. And so they believe they have some natural immunity. So a lot of these supporters really want scientists and the CFIA to study these ostriches and see if there is some sort of, antibodies or immunity that they have that they could, take from that and maybe prevent the spread of avian flu. So those are the two positions that we have heard in the last, several weeks that we've been coming out here.
And so now the Supreme Court has dismissed the appeal to try and stay that cull order. What do the supporters plan to do now?
Well, it's interesting because it's a good question, especially if these birds are in fact culled, which it appears, there's a RCMP command station here, there's CFIA here. They've been here since September 22nd when they took over this farm. These people have been here for, some of them, 11 months, like hundreds of people coming and going and dozens of people, sleeping here, camping here. I asked one woman, what do you plan to do, when this is over, if the birds are culled? And she said, I'm from Edgewood, this is my community, and these farmers are gonna need help cleaning their pens. And so I think some of these supporters are going to do whatever they can to try to help this family, try to help the farmers, clean up and do whatever they can to try to support them.
Carolyn, thank you very much for your reporting. We'll continue to watch you throughout the day, of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's CBC reporter Carolyn Barghout, live from Edgewood. It is now 12:18. You're with BC Today. Now, this week, we have been talking about the federal budget. It was delivered, of course, earlier this week and now in debate at the House of Commons. Got these emails. Barb from Victoria wrote us, I listened to your program and had a thought about housing. The boomer generation were able to buy houses for their families at prices that were affordable. Now, many of those houses have only one or two occupants as children have grown and flown. It would be relatively inexpensive to create rent-controlled suites within these homes. Perhaps some government money could go toward building these units, a program that would connect homeowners with approved builders and offer subsidies for the cost could encourage older homeowners to divide their homes to make room for affordable housing. The benefit to the homeowner would be some extra income, plus the security of having other people in their home. Greg writes, I'm a retired baby boomer, 71 years of age. I was brought up to work hard, save, and was assisted slightly to acquire my first home in my early 20s. I currently own a lovely home and have adequate savings and income to do what I wish and help my family when needed. The foregoing scenario is true of all our friends. These are extraordinary times, and I do not believe any party's budget would have ticked all the boxes. It will take time, 4 to 5 years, to overcome many of our current challenges, from tariffs to production, diversified economy, housing, and sovereignty, just to name a few. Whatever the best diet it needs to be bold and different than it has traditionally been. It will involve significantly increased debt and a plan to get our fiscal house in order over time. I support suspending OAS for all seniors who have a household income of something like 80 to 90K and redirecting to low-income seniors. Thank you so much for your emails. BC Today at cbc.ca. Well, whether you walk or cycle or drive in the Lower Mainland, have you ever wondered which intersection is the most dangerous? Well, Vision Zero Vancouver is a volunteer-run organization pushing for traffic safety. And it gave people the vote in the past few months on what was the worst intersection in Metro Vancouver. The winner has been announced. Well, not winner, but the winner has been announced as Main and Kingsway and 7th in Vancouver. It's being called the triangular terror of an intersection. CBC reporter Jessica Chung went there to meet up with Vision Vancouver Vision Zero volunteer Cal Rosette.
This intersection has been named the worst intersection in Metro Vancouver. I'm at Main and 7th, where Main meets Kingsway, and a playoff-style bracket voted on by the public has crowned this notorious intersection as the worst in the region.
This intersection, I think, is hated by all road users. A lot of signage and the road markings are quite confusing. The lanes are narrow and it's fast, which is a recipe for disaster.
It's not uncommon to see puzzled drivers navigating this complicated multi-lane intersection. This car got stuck in the middle of the intersection, and this one made a hesitant wrong turn out of confusion. This intersection beat out 32 others after thousands of people voted. The group behind the bracket says the intersection sees a high number of crashes each year.
128 crashes a year. That is nearly one crash in every 3 days, and that includes a pandemic. In 2024 alone, there were 220 crashes at this intersection, and all of them happened right here.
And those in the community are not surprised by this unfortunate accolade.
It just feels really unsafe.
Well, if you understand the algorithm, I don't think it's that crazy. You start to get a feel for it.
Oh, I think as a pedestrian it's fine as long as I follow the signals. I'm good. Yeah, and I've never seen an accident here, but it is a strange intersection.
The local BIA is worried that things are going to get worse as the area braces for a 4-month closure of a stretch of Broadway for subway construction in January.
This is a living, breathing neighborhood with tens of thousands of people moving through it every day. And just to cut off traffic moving through it and thinking that this is going to be simple, the chaos that is going to create.
The road safety advocacy group is calling for more signage and pedestrian-controlled crosswalks to make the intersection safer. Jessica Chung, CBC News, Vancouver.
Okay, well, we are taking your calls. Wherever you live in BC, have you had a bad experience at an intersection in your community? And what do you think makes an intersection dangerous? What's needed to make them safer? You can call us. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also dial 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, or 1-800-825-5950. You can also leave a comment on our TikTok Live. Joseph writes us from White Rock, I moved here 5 years ago and have discovered that every intersection is dangerous. Signal lights while moving, yield signs are invisible. Four-way stops are like laying roulette, and stop sign is often a suggestion. The whole town is a danger zone. The good news is that I've never driven as defensively in my life. Joseph, thank you very much for weighing in from White Rock. Haakon Koyote is a volunteer with the group Vision Zero Vancouver and joins me now. Hi, Haakon.
Hello.
Oh, my goodness. So I know this intersection well, Main and 7th and Kingsway. And I would say, so it was described in that piece as strange by someone and dangerous as well, according to your survey or your poll and ranking. What do you think made this the dubious winner?
Well, I think this intersection, like a lot of the intersections which were ranked really highly in our bracket, they have a lot going on. There's multiple different arterial roads coming in. There's minor streets coming into this intersection at 7th. And, you know, it's more complex than what you would expect at a usual kind of four-way stop.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. To me, it's confusion is a big part of it, right? If you want to actually go on Kingsway or continue up Main, you have to be in a specific lane in order to do that. I mean, what do you think could be improved when it comes to just clarity at an intersection?
Well, really, it's just simplifying. Like, if there were fewer options at this intersection, you know, essentially, for the number of lanes that there are, we could reduce the number of lanes, more transit lanes, make it easier for pedestrians to cross the street. The city took out the crosswalk at 7th, So having that as an option for pedestrians would make it much simpler, so people can essentially walk where they're looking because they want to cross the street in a straight line. But really, it just comes down to reducing the amount of things that are happening at that intersection.
Yeah, there are so many options, if you will. Now, you set out to rank these intersections in the summer. Your bracket started there. Can you tell me about the response? What did people think?
Well, we had a great response. We had kind of 32 of these different intersections that we went, and we were inspired by Justin McElroy from CBC, who put out a similar one in the summer to determine the best symbol of BC.
Yes, he's put out a few.
So exactly, yes. So we thought we should do something similar, and we had. Let's see here. We had a bunch of different people. I don't have the specific number of responses we had, but across north of the Fraser, south of the Fraser, in Vancouver, the west side, the east side, all of these different intersections, 32 of them, and we're really happy to see people engaging in this and talking about the fact that our intersections are dangerous and we can make them better. So having people be aware of that is really important.
Starting that conversation. Let's take a call. I put out the numbers again as well. Have you had a bad experience at an intersection in your community? And what do you think it was that made it dangerous? What's needed to make it safer? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just email bctoday@cbc.ca. We're watching your comments on TikTok as well. And then Peter is calling us now from Vancouver. Hi, Peter.
Jill?
Thanks for calling. And you've had a bad experience recently.
Yes, at the corner of Cambie and 12th, right in front of City Hall.
Yeah.
Which is a controlled intersection. It has turning lights, turning lanes, turning lights, walk signals. But I'm a pedestrian and I'm a senior. Recently, I was suffering from arthritis and walking with a limp. So often in crossing 12th Avenue, I was usually the last person to make it through the intersection. This particular day, an ambulance with sirens flashing came through the intersection, and all the traffic stopped. The ambulance was clearing the intersection, and I was walking across 12th Avenue with the other pedestrians. I was the last one. And a car came up heading south in Cambie, saw that nothing was moving, and she thought, I can just sneak through the intersection, turn left onto 12th Avenue, nothing's moving. She didn't see me. I was the only thing moving, and I didn't see her because traffic had stopped. But at the last minute, my senses told me, get out of the way, there's a car coming. And she just booted through and almost hit me at speed. So it was shocking. So drivers really need to be aware and obey the turning lane signals, and they should think that if you're trying to speed through and just save 1 or 2 seconds, you could seriously hurt, especially pedestrians.
Oh, Peter, I'm sorry that must have certainly, as you say, have been shocking for you and affected you on that day. Thank you very much for your call. And we're going to talk a bit more about that as well in terms of how much time. We can talk about that in our next half hour, how much time a pedestrian crossing might need, given Peter's struggles with arthritis as well, and having been the last person to cross the road, cross the street there at 12th and Cambie. Good to hear from you, Peter. Thanks for the story. Let's continue this conversation. We have Michael waiting in Vancouver to comment. And we'll be joined once again by Haakon Koyote with the group Vision Zero Vancouver. And we'll be joined by an urban planner as well coming up in our next half hour. Call us now and let us know, have you had your own bad experience in an intersection, and tell us, what do you think makes an intersection dangerous? What's needed to make them better? Our numbers again, 604-669-3733 or 1-800-825-5950. More of your comments. And coming up at 12:50, we'll talk about mental health as well, and a summit taking place next week to try and open up that discussion. That's in about 20 minutes from now. Right now, it is time for a CBC News update to 12:30, and here's Tanjeet Parmar.
Good afternoon. The CFIA has started to move in on the hundreds of ostriches facing a cull order over avian flu concerns. It comes after the Supreme Court of Canada decided it would not hear an appeal from Universal Ostrich Farms in the BC interior. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says it will now be moving forward with that cull. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team has been called in after a man was killed in Burnaby. A statement from Burnaby RCMP says shots were fired just after 6:30 last night near McKay Avenue and Kingsway Street. Shortly after the shooting, a vehicle was found on fire nearby. Investigators are looking into whether it might be connected. Police say that shooting may have also been targeted. And BC Highway Patrol officers issued almost 8,000 speeding tickets last month. The majority were on the South Coast, followed by Vancouver Island and northern BC. Police say drivers have a lot of work to do to make roads safer for pedestrians and vulnerable road users. They're reminding people that posted speed limits are for ideal, dry, and clear daytime conditions. Those are your news headlines. For more information, you can go to the website anytime, cbc.ca/BC.
Tarnjeet, thank you very much. That's Tarnjeet Parmar in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. We'll continue to talk about road safety, in fact, here on BC Today. Welcome back. I'm Michelle Elliott, and it's nice to have you with us. This past summer, the group Vision Zero Vancouver conducted a bracket and took votes on what was Metro Vancouver's most dangerous intersection. The finalists include Richmond's Number 3 Road and Sea Island Way at Bridgeport Road, Vancouver's Boundary and Kingsway, Brunette Avenue and Braid Street in New Westminster. And the sort of winner was Main at 7th and Kingsway in Vancouver. So this is a ranking that looked at safety, and we're asking you, have you had a bad experience at an intersection in your community? And what do you think makes an intersection dangerous? What's needed to make them safer? You can call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also dial 604-669-3733, 604-669-3733, or 1-800-825-5950. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. And thanks for joining us on TikTok as well. Haakon Koyote is a volunteer with the group Vision Zero Vancouver. And joining us now is Sandy James, who's a former planner with the City of Vancouver and now managing director of Walk Metro Vancouver. Hello, Sandy, and welcome back, Haakon.
Hi, how are you doing?
It's good to have you, Sandy, and thank you very much for joining us. I know you're in Ontario. You are a pedestrian advocate, but you are familiar with a driving experience. I notice you're in your car right now.
I'm in a rental car, yes, in Brockville, Ontario.
So there you go. You also can see things from that side of things. So can you tell us, Sandy, what does make an intersection dangerous?
You know, it's really great that Vision Vancouver group has started to talk a bit more about the intersections from a pedestrian point of view, because part of it is when we get an ICBC stat, what we're actually looking at is what the insurance company is reporting, right? Which is the accidents and the crashes and the cost to them. But there's a lot of cost to the human experience of being able to walk safely, comfortably, and conveniently across streets, which is the number one thing in the traffic management plans and in our transportation plan. So part of it is a clear vision across, ensuring that you're going to be safe, that vehicles stop, that it's well lit, that it's a short intersection, and that you're able to cross comfortably, conveniently, and safely.
That is such an interesting point, that it's about the pedestrian, the human experience there. And Haakon, what was the conversation you wanted to spark with this?
Well, I think this is the conversation we're talking about. We're talking about putting pedestrians first, people who are transit riders, people who ride their bikes. There's more people on the road than just people who are driving. And, in many ways, this intersection at Main and 7th, the Vancouver City Council has an adopted policy that, we should be prioritizing people who are walking first, people who are cycling and using active transportation second, and transit riders are third in that. Then we move on to, it's basically drivers are last in the hierarchy of how we should be prioritizing transportation in our city. So we're just trying to recenter it and bring people back there because, it's exactly right. We need it to be safe when we're walking around in our city to be able to enjoy it.
Lots of people waiting to comment on this and what makes an intersection dangerous. Michael has been waiting in Vancouver. Hi, Michael. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, which one do you think?
Well, I've got two. They're both on King Ed, but I'll start with the one if there's time. King Ed and Granville, and it's a really big boulevard, so that the intersection itself is really deep. So if people come through there and they run a yellow, it's a long time till they clear the intersection. So I see near misses going through there all the time because people are still trying to clear and turn left while these people are coming through on a straight yellow.
Yeah, and your description is right. It's quite a wide boulevard. What is it about time? What do you think might make it safer?
I'm not sure how the lights are timed, but that could be the factor. If the lights are, you've got a longer pause between the reds and the greens, perhaps.
Yeah, Michael, thank you very much. I'm going to ask Sandy about that in a moment because that also goes to our previous caller who was crossing on 12th Avenue. Mohammed is next in Victoria. Hi, Mohammed.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, welcome back.
I actually live in Victoria. I've lived in Toronto. I've been to Vancouver many times. The biggest issue I see these days as far as safety is the way people drive. People do not stop at red lights, do not stop at stop signs, especially when they're making right turns. I don't know how many times I have had someone pull partway into an intersection from a side street without looking properly, without stopping far enough back and looking. And, I mean, I've seen people run red lights, amber lights so many times. And this is a huge problem. I mean, police go after people speeding, but they don't do anything about stopping people from making improper turns and dangerous turns.
That's really interesting. Mohammed, thank you very much for the call. And he was calling from Victoria. We have an email here from Leela in Victoria who just writes, it's getting more dangerous weekly for pedestrians. Even when pedestrians have their right of way, cars are too anxious to wait. I've had the experience of being halfway across, and instead of waiting, cars or trucks go behind you. I've had them brush against my grocery backpack. I've seen kids almost knocked down as well as seniors. I think all popular walkways should have flashing lights, especially at May and Cook Street in Victoria, and I'm sure others. Okay, thank you very much, and for pointing out a specific intersection there, Leila. Let me go to Sandy James. Is it about that time? I think when we had you on last, you did refer to perhaps giving that leeway, giving that lead time for pedestrians. Are the times for crossing just too short?
You're right. We were talking about leading pedestrian intervals where it's actually like the flashing green goes on for pedestrians. You get a 3 to 7 second start to cross the intersection before the vehicle driver is allowed in. But I think your last caller was really smart because when you're young, you learn the etiquette of how to set a table and how to eat correctly. We don't do that with drivers. We give the driver a license. And I was listening to you last week talking about the learning driver's licenses. Now you only have the one test instead of the two. And, somehow, I mean, if my table manners were not corrected over 30 years and I ate alone, I would be a driver that would have the same behavior. And it's true that we get really hard on the pedestrians who, of course, die or have tissue damage, and we get hard on talking about design. But we never talk about the drivers that are smacking and hitting into people or being inappropriate. And we really need to change that culture a bit.
So beyond... you are required to learn the rules of the road, but beyond that, you're talking about something more along the lines of etiquette.
I think it's etiquette, and it's also reminding people what the rules of the roads are. And I think we talked about that when I was last on, that a right turn on red means you stop before the intersection, before any marked line. You actually stop your car, you look left, you look right, and then you proceed. It's not a running stop right through the red. So part of it is I think we've lost some of that. It's not the police's job to make sure that we know what the rules of the road are. But imagine that until you're quite a senior citizen, we don't even check how you're doing on the road. And maybe we need to talk a bit more about putting the onus back onto drivers to behave, because we have to share the road now. And part of all of our priorities in city planning is to make cities much more walkable and bikeable. And that means being able to do it safely in a city where we're not having one fatality a month, which we currently are, of pedestrians walking in Vancouver.
Yeah, it is certainly a concern. And we have a report here from our colleague Jennifer Norwell in Kamloops, a report today. Police saying they're on scene investigating two teenagers who were struck by a vehicle while crossing Kenora Street near Norcombe Secondary School. The driver has stayed on scene and is cooperating. Both students have been taken to hospital by BC Ambulance with what are believed to be non-threatening injuries. Okay, so that's a piece of news from Kamloops. Now, when it comes to road safety, again, let's go back to your calls here, asking you if you've had a bad experience at an intersection in your community, and what do you think made it dangerous? What's needed to make intersections safer? Let's go now to Robert in Vancouver. Hi, Robert.
Hi. I'm calling about the intersection of 16th and Willow, halfway between Oak and Cambie.
West side of Vancouver, okay.
Yeah, I had an accident about 10 years ago when I pulled out to turn left, and because the vehicles were parked so close to the intersection, my nose was out in traffic before I could see the car that was proceeding east.
Yeah.
So the too many parking spaces too close to the intersection, the visibility is terrible. There was a nanny who was just struck down by an SUV about a week ago at that intersection. It's a high volume. 16th has turned into a major cross street.
Right.
Probably because of the construction on Broadway.
On Broadway, yeah.
And there desperately needs to be a pedestrian light at that intersection. But I've also got one other comment. Because you can't turn left on the 16th between 3 and 6 p.m., cars come up to 17th, turn east, and rocket down 17th as if it's a through street, particularly on the 700 and 800 blocks, because the street widens out.
Yeah.
I called City Hall to see about some traffic calming, and I was told, no, we can't do speed bumps. We can't do anything except you can have a traffic circle for $60,000 if you get all the residents and owners to sign a petition agreeing to pay for it with property taxes. So City Hall didn't care. They didn't give me a name to phone or anybody to talk to. I was told just file a document.
Yeah. Robert, thank you very much. I'm just going to move on to the next caller here, but your points there about traffic calming measures that are needed, and that point too about cars parking as a visual obstruction, I think is also very important to make. So thank you for that. Al is joining us now from Vancouver. Hi, Al. You want to talk about East First Avenue?
Yes. I've lived in East Van for 20 years, and any number of intersections along East First Avenue, I'm talking the entire stretch from Clark out to Boundary, are so dangerous. I live near Woodlands and First. A young mother was killed there about 2-3 years ago. Her daughter still maintaining a shrine to her. There, it's absolutely a heartbreaking sight to see. I've seen so many signs along that route over the years where people are looking, they're homemade signs, people looking for witnesses to accidents because they've been injured along the route. Yeah, I would say even the main intersection of Commercial and Broadway is a bit, or probably Commercial and First is a bit of a free-for-all. I think better lighting at all those intersections and more traffic signals along that route are essential because people treat East First like a highway.
Yeah, East First, you're absolutely right. People treat it like a highway. So better lighting and more traffic signals. Al, really good suggestions. Thank you. Let's go to Surrey. We haven't gone to Surrey yet, so this is going to be interesting. Andrew is joining us now. Hi, Andrew.
Hello. How are you?
Thanks very much for calling. I'm well. And what intersection experience would you like to talk about?
I drive all day. I do service, and pretty much all the intersections are bad. I can be anywhere from Vancouver, Surrey, Abbotsford, whatever. They're all getting bad. Congestion's increasing. And the biggest problems I'm seeing are, we have the people trying to turn left. Mm-hmm. They're creating accidents, which is stopping traffic, et cetera. At the same time, you have people trying to turn right, whether it's on a light or, on a red or on a green. If it's green, they're not able to cross because pedestrians crossing. The issues I see are so many of the intersections we shouldn't be allowed to turn left. We should be just looping right. And the other is I'd like to see that for pedestrians, we move to the model that I'm seeing over in Europe and Asia, where the whole intersection gets shut down and pedestrians can go where they need, whether it's corner to corner or across. That way the pedestrians are held tight until it's safe to go. As it is now, you have often two lanes that are stopped because somebody's turning left, somebody's turning right, the car behind goes forward thinking they could go, all of a sudden they hit the car in front and they hit the pedestrian or what have you. So we have a couple of different things that are always going on. It's creating havoc for traffic. These would all deal with so much.
Yeah. Well, good suggestions, Andrew. And again, the scramble crossing, right, Sandy, that we've talked about. With that, I've heard that suggestion so many times as well. And I'm noticing them more now when I do come across, like, oh yeah, people like those. Thank you so much for the discussion. Really appreciate it as well, Haakon and Sandy. Thank you for starting this. I think we will revisit it.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
All the best to both of you. Sandy James, former City of Vancouver planner, now managing director of Walk Metro Vancouver. Haakon Koyote is a volunteer with the group Vision Zero Vancouver. It is just about 12:28 now, and you're with BC Today. Lots of emails are coming in on this. Christina writes us from Surrey. In my opinion, the number one factor that could make intersections safer for pedestrians is law enforcement. Drivers will take our right-of-way even when the site is clear, and they have a lot of time. For example, yesterday I was walking on 64th Avenue in Surrey and tried to cross 142nd Street. The light was green for me. Traffic was light. There were, however, cars making a left-hand turn from 64th onto 142nd. Not one, but two, but three cars turned right, and I would have been dead had I dared to cross the road. Drivers do that everywhere because they know they will never get a ticket unless they actually hit or seriously injure a pedestrian. Wow, thank you very much for that email. And another email here as well. Jake writes, it is the police's job to enforce traffic laws. Thank you very much for that as well. And Joanne writes, from Victoria, when we share a road, everyone has a responsibility. In European countries, vehicles have the right of way. Every year, after the time change, we talk about pedestrian deaths. Part of the investigation should be around the clothing of pedestrians. When we very rarely are in Vancouver, we notice black umbrellas, black raincoats. Why not wear reflective tape or carry a light? Or stop the whole intersection at that time for pedestrians. We notice really bad driving habits here in Sydney, and I'm flabbergasted at the number of senior drivers who don't know how to use a four-way stop. Joanne, thank you as well for weighing in from Victoria. BC Today at cbc.ca is our address.
Small businesses are facing extortion threats and violence. Families are afraid of their safety. As a pattern of targeted crime grows throughout our communities, your voice matters. Join us on November 13th at the Surrey Arts Centre for a special CBC News Town Hall, Extortion, Communities in Fear. It's totally free, but space is limited, so reserve your spot today by heading to cbc.ca/BC Community.
That again takes place next Thursday, November 13th. And coming up actually on November 12th, there's a summit taking place that looks at mental health. It is an important topic. And the summit is called Better Not Bitter. And it aims to open up that discussion and remove stigma from mental health awareness. I have the pleasure of emceeing the event on November 12th. Mariette Jibril is the founder of the Better Not Bitter Society. And she's with me now. Nice to see you, Mariette.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm very much looking forward to this event. Why is this subject of mental health and awareness so important to you?
Critically important. As we say, I probably say is even more a higher number of over 5 million Canadians, experiencing other, mood or anxiety disorder, and clearly unmet, right? So we need to do something as a community and come together and find ways where we can create a safe space for healing, most importantly, transformation. And that came out from my lived experience because I've been there too, right? So I have my own resume of my better, not bitter moment, and it's a lot. So if I could come out from my pain and turn it into a purpose, I want to encourage the wider community as well, individuals, and, a plea to organizations to, help individuals to come out from their pain and turn it into purpose. And that's the transformational change, right? We can do that as a community.
Right. And how important is that being able to come forward with it? What difference does it make when you can actually talk about it?
Well, before we can talk about it, Michelle, we need to break the stigma. The stigma clearly allows a lot of individuals not come out to get the timely care and encourage them to get the timely care and support that they need to have. And just because the stigma is huge. So what we're doing at a Better Not Bitter Society is to break the stigma through the power of storytelling and share experiences, lived experiences, so you're not alone, and then you can come out of that pain and you can change that pain into a purpose and be that transformational change that could lead you to so much, boost economic development, prosperity, awareness, and all of that stuff. That's what we're trying to aim at.
I am looking forward to some of the discussion we're going to have next week. What kinds of stories are you hoping to hear?
I'm hoping to hear stories of transformation, right? I'm hoping to hear stories of resilience, growth, grace to, they call it grass to grace, like my own story, right? So hopefully our speakers, and we have some amazing, wonderful speakers, and I'm just so grateful to all of them, our keynote speakers and our panelist speakers. And I've had talks with them, and I know they're going to come and share some powerful experiences that could also resonate with those in the audience. Because the thing about mental health is always about, can I resonate with you? Do you experience or do you feel what I'm feeling? Our experience, empathy. And, I like that word that you just said, because I was just going to say our human default, it's love, kindness, compassion, and empathy. And I always say this, your manager is your first therapist. Why? Because your manager should have those qualities. So, yeah, exactly.
All the managers listening right now, yes. I just got upgraded. But you know what? That is a really important point, though, because for people who work, that is where you spend so much of your time.
100%.
Yeah. So what role can your manager, your colleagues, people in the workplace, what role can they play in supporting each other?
Well, they can play a role of our first default as humans is what I've just mentioned, those 4 things: love, kindness, empathy, compassion. As a leader, you need to be empathetic. While you make organization decisions, but you need to be empathetic because you're dealing with humans, right? And this, like you said, they spend most of their time at work. I spend less time at home than I spend at work, right? So that is where is a key factor for us to start on that ground. And as a community as well, to understand that we weren't born to hate. We grew to pick that up, and then we can unlearn that. And Nelson Mandela defined that pretty well. So I'm hoping that we can inject that spirit of community, and that's what we're doing this summit. It's a community gathering where we can all come together and form connection. Because healing is not perfection. is presence, and presence leads to connection, and connection leads to healing. So that's what we're doing, the community gathering, where people can come together, connect, and, be supportive of one another. But apart from that, we have programs within Better Not Bitter Society. We have the Ally Buddy program. Is exactly what it is, Ally Buddy.
Be an ally, be a buddy.
Be an ally, be a buddy, learn about my culture, be cultural aware about the things that you don't know about me. And that could start changing the way we see things in the society. I'm a big fan of the word intersectionalities, because our intersectionality shows that even though we look different, we're all the same, right? We intersect in so many ways, right? And that could lead to huge transformation as well.
Wow. You've made me a big fan of that word now, too, just hearing that. What about a workplace, then? We've talked about people connections. Is there something that a workplace can actually do and institute to enable these kinds of connections?
Well, most organizations have the ERG groups, which is a very good ground to start with, employees groups where people can come in, feel safe, a safe space where they can be themselves, share ideas. And it's great for organizations as well. If they don't have this, they should, because that's where creativity can come into and help with innovation and help with productivity. And that's what most organizations want from their employees. So I'm really speaking to any organization listening, allow your employees to come experience Better Not Bitter, Just the name alone is a mantra that could change mindset. What we're trying to show out in the community is a change of mindset. I've been through that change of mindset where I was bitter because of all the things I've experienced. Be a 2-time cancer survivor, I wasn't born with a mobility issue. The cancer I had allowed me to be paralyzed for 2 years. I had to accept that. At one time, I was like, why me? But why not me? It's a question I want everyone to really ask themselves. But when you ask yourself, why not me? Then you go into not looking into the pain, but looking into the transformation. What are the solutions out there, and I could be better? So I started doing my exercise, having my physio appointment, and looking for ways where I can get up from the wheelchair after 2 years. I even food insecurity, no income coming in for 2 years. So,
It's such a good conversation, and it's so wonderful to meet you throughout this process. I'm looking forward to the event next week. Thank you, Mariette.
Thank you so much. And better, not bitter.
Better Not Bitter. That's Mariette Gilbrill, who is the founder of the Better Not Bitter Society. And that summit takes place next Wednesday, November 12th. And I have the pleasure of being the MC.